Oh my god, it finally happened. We have released episode 1. Welcome to the Blade Job. My name is James Trainer. I am your host, and I'm joined this week by Tommy Collins and High Voltage Scott Perkins. I'm really excited to finally be talking to you, talking to the wrestlers, talking to the community about the things that we all love. And that's wrestling. That's professional wrestling. We here at the Blade Job, our number one goal is support independent wrestling. We are talking about something that I am really passionate about, and that is the women's revolution. And it is not the one that is happening in WWE. It is the one that is happening in independent organizations all over the world right now. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter at The Blade Job Show. Follow Scott Perkins at High Voltage 1987 and Tommy Collins at Blade Job Collins. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/thebladejob. And of course, check out our YouTube page and wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you're listening to us on that right now. So without further ado, let's get into the discussion, the women's revolution. So, women's revolution is something WWE is doing, and I'm not happy with it.
Why?
I'm just throwing that out there. I think it's a marketing ploy. I feel like WWE is making a big stink about the women's revolution with a very a shallow women's roster. And I feel like there is a women's revolution happening in professional wrestling, and I think it has nothing to do with WWE. I feel like there's so much great things that are happening in women's wrestling, with such just great teams and great women who are out there. Case in point, Jordynne Grace and Lufisto as Team Pog. They will go toe-to-toe with any women in the industry. They will go toe-to-toe with any men in the industry. They will go toe-to-toe with anyone, and they are phenomenal performers, both of them. I mean, singles or in the tag team. But WWE will always hire an Eva Marie before they will hire a Lufisto.
True.
And that's a problem.
Yes.
So okay.
Yeah.
Let me pose this question.
All right.
So last year, WWE said the divas are gone. These are superstars. They are on the same level as the male competitors. This is the women's division. They got rid of that stupid goddamn butterfly belt.
That was so bad.
I thought it was cute.
You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
And they gave them the belt that they deserved, a belt that exactly matches in style the WWE at the time heavyweight championship.
Right.
Yes.
That was phenomenal. That was the best thing that WWE has ever done for women's wrestling. So I pose the question, what is different today with the women's division that was not apparent last year with the Divas division?
Well, as of right now, the roster is similar. It's not, it's not exactly the same. There's a lot of wrestlers who were on, Charlotte was the Divas champion and then she became the women's champion. They're not going to say just out and fire all the less talented wrestlers who may be there for looks. They're starting to take more wrestlers based on ability instead of looks. They're still not going to hire, Butterface Magoo. They're going to look for better looking wrestlers because that's just what the WWE is always going to do. Which is unfortunate.
And that's the problem. How much money did they throw away on Eva Marie that they could have been paying, like Kimberly, who is now Abby Lath? They could have signed her 3 or 4 years ago, and she would be women's champion at this point. Not that I have a problem. I actually like Alexa Bliss. I like Sasha Banks. I like Becky Lynch. I like a lot of the women of the roster, but there's still a bunch of them that are just eye candy.
Right, but you asked the question what was different a year ago, and that's what's different. They're bringing in more that can wrestle that they should have brought in a while ago.
They're bringing them into NXT. They're not bringing them into the main roster. NXT has a really phenomenal women's division,
right?
But it's also a promotion that's run by a wrestler, not a promoter who has completely forgot what professional wrestling is actually about.
He was WWE champion, so
and David Arquette was WCW champion.
We don't
doesn't
talk
really
about
mean
those dark
shit.
days, all right?
So WWE aside, I feel like the women's revolution fizzled. It came down to like 4 women, who were really just kind of trading the titles back and forth. But moving on to the other, to the independent circuit, I think we are seeing a true revolution of women's wrestling.
I would definitely agree. I mean, WWE is like a watered down version of
wrestling in general.
Well, wrestling in general, but on our topic of women's wrestling, that women's wrestling revolution. I mean, how many great matchups could there be or have there been on the independent scene with Team Pog, Tara Calloway.
God, what was she debuted at WWE Women's Wrestling Revolution? Allie Rex. She was awesome. I really dug her. I liked her style. I liked her in-ring
really
performance.
Great. The Sea Stars are fun
the Sea
to
Stars
watch.
are great. Speaking of
Jocelyn, so many.
Yeah, speaking of the Sea Stars, Jocelyn is. I saw her wrestle at LPW, and within 10 seconds of her entrance, I was just like, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
I've never seen her wrestle live, but it was like, you should follow her on Twitter, and I checked it out, and she seems like a very fun wrestler.
Oh yeah, no, she was super charismatic, great in the ring. She wears a fucking shark hoodie to the ring, and she doesn't take it off either. It's part of her gear.
Right.
She just wears it while she wrestles, and I don't know, that's just awesome to me.
Right. And then even on the more, I guess, that in-between level of like Lucha Underground, I mean, you have these intergender matches, and they're not pulling any punches either. So I mean while it's not women's wrestling match, it's still part of that women's revolution that they can hang with any wrestler. They're no different. They're still a professional wrestler.
Yeah, like I always think, I think the moment that I really had this kind of light bulb go off in my head when it came to women's wrestling, like the uprising that we're seeing in it was Beyond Wrestling I think it was Insatiable. I'm gonna look at my producer. That was Insatiable, I believe. I don't know.
He's nodding yes.
Yeah, sure. We're gonna pretend he's
shaking his head side to side.
They
yes.
didn't know that until you ruined it all.
And they did I think Beyond billed it as Battle of the Name, and it was Kimber Lee versus Keith Lee. And if you know
You were telling me about that before.
Who is Abby Lath once again in WWE or in NXT right now. I'm not going to say what I believe her weight to be because
that's just rude.
Significantly less than
significantly less than the probably close to 350 pounds that is Keith Lee.
I think that is correct.
And they put on probably the best match of the night. I mean, they kicked the ever-living shit out of each other, and not Keith Lee kicked the shit out of Kimberly. They beat each other up.
Yeah.
They were both walking out of that match bruised, and I was super happy to have the opportunity to talk to Kimberly for just a minute after the match. And I'm super happy I got that opportunity because she was in NXT weeks later. Mm-hmm. I think that was actually Chris Hero's last match on the air, but that's moving on to a whole nother situation. But, intergender wrestling, there's been a lot of chatter on Twitter and social media over the past couple of days that I've seen about how intergender wrestling is ruining the independent circuit, which I think is just a crock of shit.
It's bullshit.
I'm never going to pretend to know the plight. I'm just not going to ever try to understand.
As a straight white male, I don't understand any plight.
No,
I think we can all agree on that.
We're both left-handed.
That is horrible. But when people talk about, don't tell me that intergender wrestling is bad for the business and then shout equality. It's these are not women wrestlers. Diana Purrazzo, I never know how to say her last name.
Purrazzo?
Yeah,
I believe that's how you pronounce it.
She said it at Women's Wrestling Revolution. She never wanted to be a diva. She never wanted to be a knockout. She wanted to be a professional wrestler, and that's what she is. These are not women's wrestlers. This is not the women's, this is not the women's division. These are professional wrestlers. They go through the same bullshit that the men do. They travel. They make $50 a night, putting their bodies and their lives on the line. They do all of the same things. They're professional wrestlers, and that's end of story.
If you can do it, like the NHL has, if you can play, you can play. That's how I feel about wrestling. If you can, lace up your boots and get in the ring, I don't care who you're fighting, as long as it's, you're cool with it and your opponent's cool with it. I don't see a problem with it at all. You can have say Keith Lee versus a JT Dunn. I'm using him as an example because he's not a big guy. He's pretty short and skinny. And then you can take a Kimberly, who's roughly she's a little bit lighter, but probably about the same height. What's the huge difference? If he's willing to do it against Keith Lee and she's willing to do it against a guy like Keith Lee, like, why not? I honestly don't have a problem with it.
The simple fact of the matter is professional wrestling is a dance. It's two people who have to put their utmost trust in one another so they can do what it is that they do and not worry about dying. Yeah. It's a trust exercise. I recently watched Glow on Netflix, cheap pop. And there's a scene with Alex Riley, who's not Alex Riley in the show. He's playing a character. And Alex Riley, character guy, has to say that he has to explain that the guy he just wrestled with isn't his friend. It doesn't matter if they're friends or not. They're professionals. They go out there, they do their job, and then sometimes they might go out and grab a beer together. Sometimes they might say like, hey, great match, and then walk away and then never speak to each other ever again.
Right.
A lot of guys get booked. I got a buddy who's getting booked in a match. I don't know, depending on when this airs, it's either last week or next week or who knows. And I asked him, I'm like, oh, what kind of match you got? And he goes, I don't know. I'll find out when I get there. And that's sometimes how it is. And, for someone like, Jordan Grace or Lufisto or Jocelyn or Tara Calloway, Ali Rex. I mean, I'll go on and on. You know, they're going to show up to shows and, you know, they're there to wrestle. I'm sure most of them, 99% of these women athletes, they're not going to have a problem who their opponent is. They're wrestlers.
No. Right.
You know, just like you said, is JT Dunn going to walk in there and they're like, "Oh, you're wrestling Keith Lee tonight." And he's going to say, "Fuck that. No, I'm not." You know, I'm sure, you know, there's some men, women, children, whoever, who are, you know, drama queens, and you know, you're going to bitch and whine about who their opponent is. "Oh, I don't like working with him. I don't like working with her." But, you know, the professionals are going to walk there and do their goddamn jobs.
Right. I guess I'm trying to think of how to word this very carefully because I don't want it to come off wrong. If, let's say, a bigger guy had a problem wrestling someone small, even if it was a woman, if that problem should be because, like you said, it's a dance and doesn't feel safe, not because he's wrestling a woman, but because feels something could go wrong, then that's a legitimate issue. But that's not what you hear about when people bitch and moan. It's for dumb reasons that shouldn't exist.
No, absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. And it's just, you know, going back to, you know, just to use WWE as the example again, you know, for years it seems like they might be moving away from it based on what we saw at Takeover Brooklyn 3, to stay topical about what we're talking about. They have had a very strict policy on no male on female violence.
Right.
0. Which, I mean, you go back in the day, the Dudleys were putting every chick on the roster through a table.
They broke Beulah's neck.
You know, it was crazy, the kind of stuff they were doing. You know, but, you know, we saw it Takeover Brooklyn, the spot with Nikki Cross, crossbodying off the top, and then all three of them going through a table,
right?
And that was a great spot. Or we can even say WrestleMania this past year with Triple H bumping into Stephanie and putting her through the table.
Right.
Not direct man on woman violence, but
they're kind of testing the waters, almost seeing how it goes.
And I think maybe they're seeing that on the independent circuit, or we'll just say, when I'm saying independent circuit, I mean every other promotion on the planet that's not WWE.
Except WWE.
That professional wrestling is professional wrestling. What you have between your legs shouldn't affect that in any way. It's simple and to the point.
Right. And I think what they're also testing too is the fans' reaction.
Sure.
You know, whether they're like, "Oh, why did he hit a woman? Why did they get involved?" type of thing, or even if they just don't go for it, WWE's not gonna jump into that.
Right. And they, you know, WWE, they are, you know, I'm sure they have a target demo where, you know, boys between 13 and 25, or, you know, whatever it is. But they're also, you know, trying to get as big of an audience as they can, who may not be like, you know, specifically that target demo, but they're certainly branching out. And, you know, the original question was, you know, is it a marketing ploy? Yes, it 100% is, but I don't necessarily view it as totally bad. You know, they are overlooking wrestlers who are better wrestlers than some of the talent they have on their roster. But as the father of a little girl, I do kind of enjoy what they're doing, because, you know, when I was younger, it was, you know, two of the divas wrestling in gravy, you know, or something stupid like that.
Gotta love those gravy matches.
Yeah, bra and panties matches, like stuff like that. I don't want my daughter seeing that and thinking that that's what women's wrestling is. You know, my daughter loves Bayley, loves Sasha Banks. She's 7. You know, that's what she's in. Those
I
are the
love
wrestlers.
Sasha Banks.
I they're both actually very good wrestlers, and they're both good looking, which is, neither here nor there, but it's, my daughter likes them, and so we can take, a little while, watch the matches together, and she likes to, sometimes before she goes to bed, she'll ask me to put a match on that I like, and then she'll put on one that she likes. It's usually, Bayley and Sasha Banks at TakeOver Brooklyn 1, I think it was.
That was match of the year.
Well, yeah, that was a fantastic match, but that's, I think it's cool. That's something that we can bond, together over, and WWE is putting out like Barbies. I think they like kind of look like Barbies, but it's the female wrestlers, and that's that's cool. That's gonna get more younger girls into it, and then
they're targeting a new demographic,
right? And that's awesome. It's like, yeah, I'm hoping with the Mae Young Classic, more and more people will see, like, holy shit, here's this there's a woman from Germany, I forget her name, but she's pretty, she's like, looks like Dolph Lundgren almost, like she's big lady, and I'm hoping that people see her and say, holy shit, what an athlete, like, and then they'll watch more of her matches. There's her name's Viper in WCPW, I forget her name, but she's a bigger gal, and I want people to say, holy shit, look at her, what an athlete, not, oh, look at her, what a babe, it's
well, and WWE used to have that. You think back on, it was during a time of bra and panties matches, but you had Chyna and Beth Phoenix and Awesome Kong, or Karma. She was Karma in WWE, and I think all three of them were in the Rumble. I think Chyna was the first woman.
Chyna was definitely the first, and she held the IC.
Chyna also held the IC title. She definitely held her own. I mean, and it wasn't, 90% of that time was not man-on-woman violence. It was woman-on-man violence, because Chyna would kick the shit out of someone. And
now they're burying her memory.
Which, that's a whole nother concept
for that tonight.
And then, one last thing is, people always talk about the glory days, the 70s, the 60s, back when wrestling was wrestling, and in those times, the women were practically like the sideshow to the sideshow.
Yeah.
Lady wrestling, look at what Andy Kaufman made a career off of, fighting women,
right?
And we all know it was a huge work. We all know that he didn't really break his neck for 3 years or something. He wore that stupid neck brace around, but it brought women's wrestling to the mainstream media. It wasn't at that time, people were less talking about Bruno Sammartino and talking more about the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young and things of that nature, and it was great. And I just think that we are seeing this great revolution in women's wrestling. I just don't feel like WWE's the place. Global Force, Nonstop Action, Impact Wrestling,
Jeff
Jarrett is not doing that much better. They've always been a little more extreme.
Those types of ones, I think it's going in the right direction, but it's definitely not. It's watered down. It's not the true women's wrestling revolution.
It's not doing what Pog's doing. It's not doing
exactly
what, or even like Janelape, Joey
Yep.
Janela, Penelope Ford. It's not doing what, once again, Tara Calloway, who was Penelope Ford's tag team, or not tag team partner, but she was in her corner at Women's Wrestling Revolution. She's the East Coast Barbie.
Yeah. What the hell is her name?
Shit, I'm gonna feel so bad because I don't remember.
Sorry,
but that was a pure female athlete that I saw in the ring. That was a professional wrestler. That was not a diva. That was not a knockout. That was a woman who would whoop my ass.
Maria Manick,
thank you. And she was great. She was great because she was, she bills herself as the East Coast Barbie, and she's tall and she's blonde and she's beautiful and she's ripped.
But then once the bell rings, she just goes ape shit and
kicks the crap out of
kicks
people.
Crap out of
and that
anyone
was
there.
awesome. But I hope that when we revisit this in a couple months, that we are going to be able to say, you know what, WWE has changed their focus and their women's division is doing fantastic. And I hope that they're going to take a page from companies like Beyond Wrestling, Women's Wrestling Revolution, even some of the other local organizations like Chaotic Wrestling and Lucky Pro Wrestling, who have had phenomenal women's matches that I've seen recently. I just hope that this revolution will continue and will eventually bleed more into the mainstream and make it less a marketing ploy and more. I think the Mae Young Classic is going to do some great things.
I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yes.
So, I really think that this this could be a huge moment. The Mae Young Classic is either starting or has just started, depending on at one point this is being heard by people on the internet. So we'll see. We will see.
And even if this comes out after, you should still watch it because it'll be on the network. And
That's great. How much is that again? They haven't said it in a long time. I don't remember
WWE
anymore.
Network
Might be
I don't know.
9, 10.
Oh, who's straight? You know what? Take that $10, throw it away. Powerbomb.tv, cheap plug right there. $10 a month.
Well, don't throw that $10 away.
Yeah,
use it for
them.
Powerbomb.
You're gonna throw it away.
Or Beyond Demand, or one of
give it
these
to
other
me.
independent.
I'll use it
promotions.
for one of those many.
One of
other
those
ones.
things.
Yeah.
$10 is just go buy some scratch tickets.
Scratch tickets.